How's that? Is the sound there now? I'm going to be bummed if I talked for 1 minute and 43 seconds and there was no sound. Okay. Now I know if the mute button is if the mute button is flashing, then it's muted. So yeah. Well, thanks, John. Now you tell me there was no sound. Well, now we got it. So we only lost 2 minutes, thankfully, and I really didn't say anything that good. So don't worry about it. Yeah, Dwayne, mute button is working. So what I was saying was, hope everybody had a great Labor Day weekend. I was out riding here. We did a couple ride series clinics that were just awesome, but I went out and did some riding, and I noticed, man, it was crazy because there was people everywhere. And if you've been to Bentonville, Northwest Arkansas, you understand what it's like. It can be a little chaotic. There's a lot of places where people congregate and session different things. And I know that. Anybody who's ridden a decent amount knows that, and they should understand that. And what I saw was there's a lot of newer riders that don't quite know exactly how things work. But a lot of the riders that appeared to be longtime riders understood. They were getting frustrated. They weren't yielding to the newer riders. Now I get it. You know, it's frustrating when people don't know exactly what to do. But at the same time, I think that we need to understand that as riders that have been in the scene for a while. There will be new people. They're excited. They don't really know what's happening. So just chill out, you know, back it down a little bit. The spots where you're going to charge it and go hard, I don't think you'll see many of those people there. So yeah. That's kind of my public service announcement for today. And I'm gonna get my LaCroix open. We're going cran raspberry. Pretty good one. What's the one-handed wheelie tutorial? Come on, Bennett. I'll eventually get to a one-handed wheelie tutorial, just not right now. A lot of people still have problems with two-handed wheelies. So we're gonna let them get that down. I made a couple notes that I wanted to talk about a few things. One of them is the transition Spur. So I got the new Spur in size large. So I read the medium quite a bit. I really liked the medium. Thought it was a really, really cool bike. And I said, hey, I'd love to get a large. They sent the large, put the large together, and I went out and rode it. And just as I expected, it was that much better than the medium. So definitely the size I needed. And I was still just thoroughly impressed with that bike. You know, it defies logic that it's only 120 millimeters and it looks really good. So we're going to do some more videos soon with that bike, and I'll share a few more thoughts, but definitely the first couple of rides I've taken on it, thoroughly impressed. I mean, it's really light, surprisingly light. Pedals really, really well. And then also it jumps really well. It's crazy. Somebody was asking me about it. I was hitting this line called Hammer Down here, and it was almost like a big BMX bike. Big BMX bike with suspension. And you come ripping into sections and, you know, really pump the downsides, and you pick up so much speed that it's kind of scary. I actually had to scrub the brakes a little bit. So yeah, great bike. Very excited about that. Also finally got my Specialized EPIC EVO and put that together. So I got the pro level build, which is a great looking bike. Again, very, very light. So I'm going to get some more time on that. I've ridden the EPIC EVO, 2 different bikes. One was the S-Works and one was this same pro model. Borrowed them from a couple people and had some fun on them. So it's good to actually have one that I will have in my possession for a while, and I'll be able to put some time on it. So it's a bike that everybody's been raving about for good reason. Really solid bike. But again, I have a Spur and I have a Evo, both 120 millimeter, and they're kind of begging for a little bit of a comparison, of a shootout. And I'll do something like that. I'll talk about it. So I think that's something that maybe go out and do a few different back-to-back runs, like maybe 3 different areas, do like some kind of dirt jumping stuff, and then maybe do like some all-out cross-country blitzing, and then maybe a big trail ride and break them down that way. So if you have any input on that, let me know, because I really think that's a fair way to do it. I'll let you in on a little secret. They're not the same bike. It's funny how 120 millimeter bikes aren't the same across the board. So I think that's something that it's important to try to get that across. And so I want to do that. I don't remember what the other element. Oh yeah. What's coming up next? A lot of ride series clinics. So right now we're working on the schedule, and we have this weekend in DFW. So if you're out there watching or you're anywhere near the Dallas area, we're going to be back out at Irwin Park. So a few more spots left for that. The weather's actually looking pretty decent, and we use the grass field. We don't use the trail. So if the trail's still got a little residual water on it, it's fine. It's not going to be an issue. After that, we're heading out to Denver, the Sunshine State. Gorgeous. So first time taking a ride series clinic to Denver. I'm fired up. Like it's going to be fun. We're going to go out a little bit earlier, hit Breck, do some riding there, try to get out to Winter Park on Friday and do some filming. Hoping to have another bike for that. So stay tuned. But it should be good. When we come back, another couple of events here in Bentonville. Then we're going to go to Kansas City, and then we're going to head out west. We got Phoenix scheduled October, and so late October, last weekend of October. So it's going to be the 31st and the 1st. We're looking to do a Southern California date, the first full weekend in November. So if you're in the Southern California area, shoot me a message. We're looking at like Simi Valley area right now, because that's where we're up. We got some friends there, or San Diego is coming in strong. We got some people out there saying they're ready. So if we can find a spot and get it locked down, we will make it happen. So I guess with that, let's throw out some questions. I'm surprised. We've got 36 people on, but nobody's thrown out any questions. We have a few that are kind of lingering out there. And somebody said on one of the Instagram posts that I made with the video breakdown using Coach's Eye that it would be good to comment, especially when it comes to jumping, on being in flats and being clipped in. And that's always a question, always a topic that we can talk about for a long, long time. I have a input with that, and it's definitely an interesting one. One of the things that we try to preach when it comes to jumping is driving your heels through the takeoff. So one of the things that we see that is a big issue is people start to rotate and roll their feet forward early to pick the back of the bike up. You have to do that at some point, but you also need to create as much lift as you need to. So that's something to think about. Where's the best place to find the calendar, Krager? Go to the Ride Series MTBskillsclinics.com. That's going to be, if you scroll down, it's going to see book an upcoming event. That'll show you where everything is. Is jumping a matter of age? That's a great question, Mr. EIT. And to an extent, it kind of is, because I think to be proficient or good at jumping, you need experience, and experience is going to come with age. So the more time you have, the more experience you're going to get. I'm working with a couple young kids right now from the Dallas area, and they're making amazing progress. If you look on my Instagram on the stories, you'll see some of that progress. And part of it is they're so new. They're young, they're new, they're not thinking about much, and they're very coachable. But if you don't have that experience when you're young, it's going to be much more difficult getting it when you're older. Now, I don't necessarily think there's a, are you too old for learning to jump thing? I would argue, no, you're never too old to learn how to jump, especially if you're riding on jumps. And that's definitely an important thing. You can learn at any age. I think it's up to you to be very strategic in what you try to jump and how you try to jump. But what's funny is it all comes back to one of the things we talk about, and that's loading into the takeoff and getting more lift. And I can't explain this any clearer. If you have two options, either go higher or go further, I would rather go higher, as long as the distance is going to get me close to what I need to do. Think about it this way. Most people, when they're jumping, what they do is they bring in more speed. If they're not clearing it, they bring in more speed. My advice is don't bring in more speed. Try to get higher, because if you go higher and you're moving, you're going to go forward. And the other piece of this is if you don't come in faster, you have more of a window to deal with the energy on the takeoff. watch all these videos. I won't say all of them, a lot of them. Watch a lot of these videos with people crashing on jumps. They come in way too fast. They let their hips creep back. They load into the takeoff and get bucked because that energy gets created and pushes them right over the bike. If you slow down, you have more time. You have a larger window to deal with what's happening on that takeoff. And we see it all the time. We just did a great ride series clinic this weekend, jump session on Sunday. People made some great progress. And what we talked about at the end was, how are you going to transition that to the trail? And my best advice is do it slowly. Now, I think most people fear TB when it comes to jumping. They do. And you should have a fear. Best way to deal with that fear is be over the center of the bike. Fear is good. Fear should have you question the things that you should question. Now, riding scared, that's not a good thing. You need to put yourself in a position, body position, and position on the trail where you're riding to have some success. Don't send it. That's my best advice. Don't send it. Unless you're really comfortable and you're 80% confident, don't do that. Come in slow, especially if it's a tabletop. If you don't have to jump all the way over it, don't jump all the way over it until you're comfortable doing that. I think it's simple. So, all right, Roberto, Switchblade version 2 versus Firebird 29 for NWA. Oh, man. Dude, that's a tough question. You can kind of cherry pick and say Switchblade because it's a little smaller and in theory a little bit more efficient. I rode the heck out of my Firebird and I really liked it. I don't think there's that much of a downside or disadvantage pedaling that big bike for the upside you get. So that's a tough one. I would say it comes back to what's the best deal you can get. That's what I think. I fear racking myself. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I'm glad we taught you dig your heels in, push through your legs. Yeah, it's one thing. It takes time and it's hard to get that across to people. In the clinic setting, it's a very safe setting, relatively speaking, and people kind of get outside, push their boundaries a little bit, and they feel comfortable really getting in and creating lift. And transferring that onto the trail is a difficult thing. And I get it. It's difficult across the board. But what I come back to is, in that environment, you collected data doing what you should be doing. So if you can find a way as a rider to keep yourself comfortable and slowly build up. And when I mean slow, I'm talking slow. Like it could be days. Irwin's a great example. We're going to go do an event at Irwin Park. Irwin Park has these tabletops that they're building that I think are pretty good now. They've shaped them up well, but it's an opportunity for you as a rider to go out there for 3 hours and every attempt go a tiny bit faster, get a tiny bit higher, and go a tiny bit further. But not a lot of people want to do that. Take your time. Take a couple extra hours. It's better than coming in super hot, getting bucked over the bars, breaking a collarbone, and going to the hospital. Really think about that. I think it's very important for people to understand that it's going to take time. It really is. And embrace that. It's all part of the journey. Like embrace that and really revel in those very small, minute improvements, because if you make those, you can better understand where they came from and how you did it and keep applying that over and over again. If you come in 4 miles an hour faster and change the timing of when you're loading and opening, it's really hard to stay on track of, wait a minute, what the hell did I do that actually worked? So try to really put yourself in a position where you can take what you did, the changes you made, and know why they worked, and then keep just adjusting a little bit from there. All right, Paul, 41, love MTB, can't find anyone to ride with. Yeah, it's tough, man. Paul, there's a lot of really good networks. Like Facebook is incredible for the most part. But I think a lot of places have really good networks, especially NorCal. I know it's an interesting scenario up there because you have some people that are somewhat opposed to mountain bikes, but man, I'd ask around and maybe just hit a few different shops. Go try a few shops and see if they have group rides or if they know of any group rides. I think it's a really solid place to start. So we have a lot of ramp style wooden jumps at our local spot. Do you handle them differently than dirt jumps? Ooh, flat landings. Yeah, I'll tell you how I handle flat landings, Krager. I don't use them. If there's a jump that has a flat landing, I'm out. I'll pass. I'll find a way to get, I'll find a way to get a spot where there is a landing. But in regards to dirt jumps, again, you got to deal with the takeoff. So you got to be able to look at it and see what kind of energy is being created. And it's tough sometimes. The steeper the takeoff and the shorter it is, the more difficult it is to deal with that energy. So the slower you come in, I think the better it's going to be. All right, Barry, do I need to be able to bunny hop properly in order to jump properly? Probably. It's certainly going to help. It's not going to hurt. The technique in bunny hopping, and I think it's the American bunny hop. I don't know. There's American and British. I just know how I bunny hop. I think understanding the principles and the technique behind that is going to help you jumping because it's a similar thing. And it's easy for me to say because I get it, I understand it. But what's crazy is these kids I'm working with understand it. And I think it's a fear thing. And that's what I keep coming back to is I'm working with these young kids and they understand that they're loading into a takeoff, something that's sending them up. And so what they naturally instinctually do is they open their body up. They stand up with the bike as it's coming up the takeoff. The majority of newer adult riders I see, they don't do that. And it's because they're scared. They try to drop in and soak the energy up. You can't do that. So you could look at it both ways. If you learned how to jump properly, then in theory, if you do the same thing on the ground, you should be able to bunny hop. So people have different ways to look at it, but yeah, I think it's important to understand it and you got to grasp it up here. So I'm a big fan of thinking your way through things. Don't just throw yourself at it over and over again and hope it works. Really think about what you're doing, analyze it, break it down, and try to apply it. So Yo Mama says clinics, Bentonville and Dallas. We try to get down to Houston, but it's really difficult. It's much further to drive. Sometimes it's difficult to drive down there. Sometimes it's difficult to find a spot. So you can always go up to Dallas. We got one there this weekend. Down the road, we're still going to work on that. We're going to try to find a spot down there in Houston. So I think we can make it happen. I've got a message held for review. So Jacob, do you have any experience with commensals? I don't actually. My buddy Aaron Chase is riding commensals now, and he seems to dig them. I would like to ride them. But, here's what I'll tell you, Jacob. Bikes, there's a lot of good bikes right now. I see a lot of discussion, a lot of debate about bikes, and I'm trying to ride every bike I can. Trying to do reviews on every bike I can. And it's funny because what are the reviews? I'm not here to say a bike's good or bad. I'm really not. When you get up over $3,000, I don't think bikes are bad. I think, does the bike resonate with you? Does it make sense for what you're doing, who you are as a rider, how you're built as a person? There's so many different factors. And I think that is the important thing. There's a lot of really good bikes out there and they're all very different. So ride as many as you can. Take opinions of people that you value and take that input, take it with a grain of salt, mine included. My feedback when it comes to riding bikes is very biased. And that's because I love riding bikes. Give me anything. Give me a beat up beach cruiser. I don't care. I dig it. I like riding bikes. So for the most part, my input is going to be biased towards good because I'm having fun. I'm riding a bike. Now, that being said, I'll tell you if, maybe it just doesn't resonate with me. I'm riding where I normally ride and, on the bikes that I've ridden it on, I feel really good. Maybe this particular bike doesn't feel that good. And what I'll do is I'll try to figure out, well, what could be causing that? I'm not immediately going, man, this bike doesn't work well, or this bike sucks. It's what is it about the bike that maybe isn't meshing with me and the way I ride? So if I can realize what that is, maybe make a small adjustment, dude, bike might be amazing. And it's funny because I learned that from my brother. And what he said is basically, if you don't let the bike's strong points work for you, you're not going to give it a chance. And that's important. And, he learned that with the Firebird. He got the Firebird 29 when it came out, and he was having some trouble riding it. And what he didn't account for was it had a significantly longer wheelbase, relatively speaking, than the bikes he was riding. And so what was happening is he's riding his normal trail, but the bike's arriving sooner in space. He didn't change the timing of his inputs. So he was having trouble clearing things that he normally clears. It wasn't the bike's fault. It was his fault for not adjusting the inputs and taking advantage of that longer wheelbase. So I don't know. That's my little diatribe on that. Hot dog. Is it a sandwich? If not, why not? It's a hot dog. It's not a sandwich. A sandwich is a sandwich. Mike, having a hard time going fast down a trail. Any help? Heck yeah, Mike. See these things right here? Look as far ahead as you can. A little less of this. Stay centered over the bike and relaxed as you can. You'll go faster. Trust me. All right, Dwayne, going along with jump topics, you suggested clip pedals and shoes. So here's the thing, Dwayne. I love that you're ready to try. My only advice is practice. Everybody talks about practice. We talking about practice? Yes. Get your pedals set up, get your shoes set up, and ride around and just keep clipping out. Keep clipping out over and over again. You have to practice doing that. It's not just going to magically happen. So practice, and it'll get a little bit more comfortable. Trust me. Ben, if you have 45 minutes in Bentonville, what trails are you riding? Oh, Ben. Let me tell you what I'm going to do, Ben. I'm going to leave my house. I'm going to rip down Ravine, which is right in the middle of Crystal Bridges. Pretty sweet trail. That's going to take me right into Masterpiece. And Masterpiece is one of the newer Jeremy Wytech trails. It's got that really cool metal wall ride. I'm going to probably hit that 5 times. From there, I'm going to roll up a little bit. It's actually going to be south, up All American. And I'm going to hit what I call the bottom of the top of All American. So it's where all the switchbacks come out, and it's where I have that cool little double. So I'll session that a few times. And now that I'm nice and warmed up, I'm going to keep heading. I'm going to actually head back north on the Greenway, and I'm going to make a left into Black Apple, and I'm going to roll up to Hammer Down, and I'm going to session Hammer Down until I have about, I'd say probably 12 minutes of the 45 left. And then once I leave, I'm going to pedal on home, and I'll take the Greenway back south up through All American, shoot down the road to my house. So there you go. It's pretty awesome. 45 minutes in Bentonville. Trust me. Do I have any experience with magnetic retention pedals? I do not. You get a quality bike for $70 in India? I'm a little jealous. I'd love to see what you got going out there for $70. All right, Yo Mama, Anthill, Cypress Creek. We did Cypress Creek. Yeah. I know. I know where Houston is. My wife's from Houston. I've been to Houston many times, and we've actually done a couple of events in Houston. Now, you see that's where Ninja does their clinics. Our clinics and Ninja is very different. We bring a big van, we bring a big trailer, and we set a bunch of implements up. To the best of my knowledge, Ninja uses a lot of trail. I don't use a whole lot of trail. So 2 schools of thought there. My opinion is I want to remove as many impediments as possible, and I want to put you in the safest controlled environment that I can, because then you can focus on the technique. You don't have to worry about anything else. So we're going to get there very soon. Monster Chuck moving to NWA in the beginning of October. That's sweet. Yeah, Chuck, just dude, Slaughter Pen, All American Slaughter Pen. You're going to love that spot. Roman suggests Ruby Hill Bike Park in Denver. Well, it just so happens, Roman, Ruby Hill is where we're doing our event there. So you'll see us there soon. All right, Jacob, you talk a lot about different bikes. I was just curious of your thoughts. You ride a Commensal, but considering a full squish. after suffering down Black Mountain in Pisgah last weekend. You know, it's funny. Somebody made a comment earlier on YouTube about riding a hardtail. I would ride a hardtail. I mean, I'm down to build up a hardtail and ride it, but all things being equal, I want to be on a full suspension bike. Just plain and simple. It's just more fun, and I'm into it. Marcus, question, part 1 of 2. I have some friends wanting to get into mountain bikes, but their budget's low because they don't want to spend a ton of money for something they may not like. Explain the direct relationship between bike quality and chances they stick with it. What recommendations do you have for someone with $1,000 budget? Oh, that's a tough one. You're really hamstrung, I think, at $1,000. What I would say, yeah, that's a tough one. It really is. I'm going to have to think about that one for a little bit, Marcus. I think that might be, I'm going to make a note of that. I'll make a note of that, Mark, because that's something that's going to be a whole live chat. I've just decided. All right, I just made the notes. That's going to be a whole live chat because I think that's very important. Let's talk about that. And not just for the newer riders, but for the people that maybe have been around a while and are looking to do some upgrades. I'm definitely going to give my opinion on that. And what I keep coming back to is that damn Fazari I have. $34.99. Great bike. Carbon, SLX, DVO suspension. It's awesome. Another bike I want to get is a Giant Trance X 29. So that's low 2000s. Again, all intents and purposes, looks like a really good bike, especially for a newer rider. So it's something that I want to get on and ride a little bit and see, what do I think? You know, how well will it work for somebody like me? And I think that'll give us a better idea of how is it going to work for somebody who's maybe a newer rider. You know, Marcus, it's a tough one, man, because the Trek Roscoe, from what I've seen, is a pretty decent starter bike. Yeah, it's a hardtail, but it's got a dropper. It's got, I think, 2/8 on it. So you get a little bit more suspension. Relatively speaking, the geometry is pretty good. So it's, again, at $1,000, it's difficult. I'm just not versed enough around $1,000 and what those offerings are. So I'm going to look. I'm going to do some due diligence and we're going to figure it out. Okay, Barry, when it comes to drops, if I can comfortably hit a 3 to 4 foot drop, would I need to do anything different to hit a 6 to 8 foot drop? Yes. In theory, you're going to need to bring in a little bit more speed, all things being equal, to hit that 6 to 8 foot drop. So if everything is the same, but literally it's just a couple feet taller, I would bring in a little bit more speed and try to keep everything else the same. I mean, if you're looking at it, I want to get from point A to point B. So I want to come off and get right down to where I want to be. So again, no, it's not that big of a difference between those two. I mean, an 8 foot drop is pretty decent, especially if you're landing the flat. If it's something that you're landing on an actual landing that's pointed down, just be careful again about going too deep, because, you know, drop the hammer is a pretty popular one here. Drop the hammer set off like this. I've never seen anybody have a problem landing right up here at the top. I've seen people have problems landing down here. So the further out you go, the lower you go, the more energy you're creating. So it can be pretty bad. You should trail check the boneyard. It scared me off my bike. You know, it's kind of funny. We've talked about that a little bit, but I mean, the fact that it scared you off your bike is one of the reasons. I don't know. We'll get there. Everything needs to be done, and we're going to try to get them all. But I think there's a lot of other places that people should go before the boneyard. All right, Ben's asking about some off-the-bike training tips, how to get stronger and more control. Yeah, that's coming soon. You know, getting in the gym, training a little bit, doing some mobility is important. But we're working on a cool little deal to do some of those videos. So I would say give me another 4 to 6 weeks, and we will have some of those videos up. Okay, what else? Dwayne, what brand of pedals and shoes for clipless? You know, I really like HTs. I've been on the HTT one for a long time. I just got some X2s, which are a little bit larger platform. So I like those. I like them a lot. they're a little bit more direct, I think, than the XT, but the XT is also a pedal that a lot of people love. As far as shoes, I got a lot of shoes, and it's kind of funny because that's what I wanted. I want to do a video on shoes because I've never gotten shoes. It's funny. Well, I shouldn't say that. When I was with Giant, shoes were part of that deal, and Giant has great shoes. So I have a pretty eclectic mix of shoes, and I want to break those down. But I would say, man, the Giro Chamber 2 is good. Giro Terraduro. All the Giant shoes I really liked. I just got some Specialized 2FOs, the Clip Light 2FO, another great shoe. It's one of those ones where I think you have to try a few because people's feet are all so different. And I think the more you try, the better feel you're going to get for what resonates with you. Okay, what do we got here? Any plans to come back to Phoenix after the first of the year? Yes, Kevin. Yeah, actually, we're talking about that right now. We're having a little strategy session. Probably going to see a decent amount in the early part of next year. So we're going to do a few in Phoenix, try to get out to Southern California. But yeah, January, February, the weather isn't the best in this part of the country. So the idea is to be out there as much as we can. So we'll do some Phoenix, try to do some California stuff. So yeah, stay tuned, and I'll let you know more of these as we go. Roman, I might ride Banana Peel. Yeah, I'm not worried. I'll hit it. It'll be fun. Yeah, Orange County, that's on the list. We're looking at it. It's one of those things. Hit Rocky Peak, it, dude. That's what I want to hit. Everybody posts videos of Rocky Peak, and I remember riding it when I was, back when I lived there, when I was in 6th and 7th grade. We would go hit Rocky Peak. It's nothing like it is now. So hopefully we can get out. And that's part of why we're thinking about maybe doing one in Simi or that area, is to be able to do some riding at Rocky Peak, maybe get Curtis Keene, Blake Mastrangelo, some of the boys out there and do a little proper rip on that stuff. It looks really, really cool. And so I would definitely love to hit it. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Spider Mountain, Jeff is going to be down there trying in Austin. Yeah, you're going to have fun, dude. Spider's rad. Just have fun. Just cruise it. Hit the green and the blue trails to start and just have some fun. Don't be in a rush and slowly work your way up to the blacks. They're not bad. There's a couple of chunky rock sections, but they're definitely really fun. Yeah, Roman, Breck has an indoor bike park. I didn't know that. Yeah, when we go to Breck, we're going to hit a little bit of more XC style, I think, to start, and then we're going to roll over to Trestle and go blast some park runs over there to try to get a little mix of video. So hoping the bike that I'm supposed to ride shows up in time, but it's almost in transit. It's getting ready to ship. I keep looking on FedEx to see when it's coming. So hopefully we'll see it soon. Edward asks, any East Coast classes? We'd love to, Edward. We really would. It's just with everything that's been happening this year, we weren't able to make it work. I want to go from the bottom of Florida all the way up into Maine, if possible, at some point. But, it's tough. Hopefully next year we can make it happen. I was actually born in Boston, so I still have a lot of family back in that part of the country. We've had quite a few people ask about like the Santos area, Florida. I'd love to go do something in Florida and just work back up. Pisgah, the Carolinas, it's prime to get there. And then all the way up into the upper Northeast. There's a lot of spots that we would love to come to, places in New York. So we're going to try to put it on the schedule for sometime next year, try to figure out when the weather's good, try to set it up where we can come out and make a little extended road trip, maybe make, 4 or 5 weeks out of it and see what we can do. So it'll be pretty cool. Hey, Dwayne, look at that. $14.99. I totally forgot about the super chat thing. It's funny. At some point, I'm going to remember this. So thank you, Dwayne. I appreciate that, man. That's really cool. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And, we're still I'm just trying to stay on top of everything. The clinics have been the main business and will be the main business. So we're trying to scale that up as much as we can, build out a schedule, and get to as many places as possible. The other thing that everybody needs to think about is right now, there's very few of us. It's myself, it's my brother, it's my man Craig, who's been helping here. Andy, of course, one of the longest running coaches that we have. And then we have somebody else that we're trying to get on board and bring in. It's tough because what we need for someone to be a coach is some pretty extensive experience. It would be very difficult for us to bring somebody on to the Ride Series team that doesn't have high level riding experience, because part of what we talk about in regards to the value in our program is the fact that what you're getting is people with a lot of experience. You know, we're not speaking from a manual. We've experienced what we're trying to explain and experienced it in a lot of different situations. And I think that's very important, especially when it comes to some of these higher level maneuvers. Jumping, for example, like teaching somebody to jump, you have to have a fairly high level of proficiency jumping. So we won't put somebody in front of a group. We won't have somebody lead a class that doesn't have a very high level of experience, but also a high level understanding of the TRS standard. So I think it's very important that people understand that. It's not as simple as, hey, let's just go. And we're going to get there. We're going to ramp up. We're going to bring some more people on board, and we're going to expand the program a little bit more. And we're going to try to let people get a better feel for what that TRS standard is. So you might be able to read between the lines a little bit there and figure out what that means. So some cool things coming down the road. So yeah, Roman says, refer to the Lone Ranger's Keystone Bike Park YouTube review to find the foam pit. Okay. I can look at that. Yeah, the Lone Ranger, that's where the Spur I have came from. So it was kind of cool to see that. How many bikes do you Okay. Marcus, great question. How many bikes do you and your family currently own? It seems like you get a new FedEx every few days. Yes, Marcus. And for you and the 61 other people watching, I don't own those bikes. I don't own all of them, I should say. I own a couple of bikes, but thankfully I'm in a position where companies send a lot of bikes to ride. So I don't own those, dude. I can't afford all those bikes, but right now there's a decent amount. So in the garage right now, when I woke up this morning, it's pretty neat to walk out and see. I have the Delano Peak. So the Fazzari Delano Peak. We have the Transition Spur, Specialized EPIC EVO. I have Epic Evo, the Specialized Levo, the Specialized Levo SL. And I think that's it. But there's more coming. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to see a few more. So yeah, that's Roman. I'm not riding a downhill bike in Denver. I'm bringing a very capable enduro bike. So you can make a guess at what that would be. Yeah, Joe, man. Yeah, I totally forgot. We need to get on the phone soon. You can count on the Ride Series coming to Redhead Mountain Bike Park in 2021. For anybody who's not familiar with it, and I was not, Redhead Mountain Bike Park is up in Chisholm, Minnesota, well north in Minnesota. And Joe reached out, sent a message, and I looked, and it's a cool looking spot. And you know it's going to be legit when the first thing you see is that Rock Solid Trail Design is there building. Rock Solid is a company that builds here quite a bit. They do some really, really cool stuff. And when I say that, I mean, it's art. Like some of it is artwork. They did, I think, the majority, if not everything, down at Mount Nebo. So almost everybody's familiar with Bentonville, Northwest Arkansas, but about 2 hours, 15 minutes south of here is Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo is where they have one of the Arkansas State Park monument trails. And it's one of the coolest spots that I have ever ridden. And it is like artwork. The rock work is amazing. There's a spot where you ride under a waterfall. So I've been down there a few times to shoot some video, and it was really impressive. I have no other way to describe it. So yeah, Joe, I'm excited to get out there. And I think that's going to be part of that whole tour. We'll try to figure out, hitting those spots in Minnesota and kind of working our way down the coast potentially, or working up there. I mean, you never know. We got to figure it out with weather and logistics and all that stuff. But I'd like to really get out, and I'd like to go to every city we possibly can. But at the same time, we got to make sure that it's something that's realistic, that I can still handle all of the content producing obligations, because now we're starting to see a little bit more, and it's awesome. Like, the idea is we want to make more videos, and we want to bring as many how-tos as we can, just to try to enlighten people on, my input, what I think the technique should be, but also give people more of an understanding of what's out here to ride. There's a lot of trails, and sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming. So if we can be an asset, if we can be a place where you can get some information here, like figure out where to go here, but also kind of be armed with what you're going to see. You get caught up in the moment here. I see it all the time. And there's some stuff that, there's nothing super crazy, relatively speaking, but there's some spots that can get a little bit chunky. So I think if we can make videos that will highlight those and just give you a little bit of prep for that, you're going to be in a really good position when you come here. And then, man, I'd love to do it other places. Like, there's no reason we just have to stay here with those. So hopefully we can grow those trail overviews and get some funding from other municipalities to head out and try to go do the same thing at some of these other areas. All right, Martin, you're a great and unbiased tester. Thank you. I would like to ask your subscribers to write different manufacturers to tell them they would like to see Rich test their products. It's okay with me. Yeah, it's funny. People have done that, and it actually works. So yeah, I'd love it. Reach out to those companies. It's one of those things to be an unbiased tester. I can keep coming back to, I just like riding bikes, and I'm not an engineer, and I'm not a suspension expert. I'll ride the bike, and I'll at the very least show you, yeah, I can ride the bike. I can ride it on some cool things, on some big things. But again, if something doesn't make sense to me, I'm okay saying that. And what I'll do, I'll frame it in the context of it didn't work with me. Maybe it works really well for somebody else. Fazari is a prime example. I rode a LaSalle Peak. LaSalle Peak, very steep seat tube, very slack head angle. And the bike I rode had a 35 millimeter stem. And the reason I'm pointing that out is, if it had a 45 or a 50 mil stem, I think it would have been a little bit different. But I came off a bike that was on the other end of the spectrum, and then just got on and ripped this thing. And I didn't mesh with it very well. And I came back and I told them that. And it wasn't like I said, oh, this bike's no good. And I didn't go tell anybody that bike was no good. What I said was, I'd like to get that bike back, and I'd like to put a little bit longer stem on it. And I'd like to spend a little bit more time getting acclimated to the benefits of the steep seat tube and that head angle, because I really think that I could ride the wheels off of that bike. But maybe not. Maybe the seat angle is too steep, and maybe the head angle is too slack. I don't know, but I would need to spend more time on it. So I have no problem talking about it in that context. So yeah, Mount Nebo. I did. Mount Nebo is awesome. I'm actually, pardon me, I'm going to plug the computer in real quick so it doesn't die on everybody. Somebody said wall ride tips. Yeah, hang on. Tyler, I got a great wall ride tip for you. Don't fall off. Hopefully that makes sense. Wall ride tip, yes. Match the angle of the wall. If you're coming up, don't do this thing. Okay. If you're like this, it's going to be bad. What I like to do is get up, put the bike on, take the bike off. That's my biggest wall ride technique. Roman, when are you going to try out for Red Bull Rampage? That's a pretty good segue. And then we'll start to wrap this up. I would never try out for Red Bull Rampage. I have no business riding Red Bull Rampage. I don't know that I would be okay even getting from the top to the bottom without doing anything, like just trying to ride down. And I have no issue saying that. I am very, very comfortable with who I am as a rider and where my riding level is. I'm pretty damn good on the bike, but there's a lot of people that are way, way better than me that do things I would never even think of doing. And I love watching a lot of those people ride. And I mean, dude, I'm 42 years old. I have a family. I've done pretty well on a bike, and I have a ton of fun. And I think I have a lot of input to give people. But at the same time, if I was in a situation where I was surrounded by people that were much better bike riders than me, I'd keep my mouth shut and I'd watch and I'd ask as many questions as I could. And I would try to get anything that I could to help me get a little bit better. And I think that's a very important thing for everybody to understand, especially young riders. It's okay to be realistic with who you are, with where your skills are. Don't pretend to be something you're not. You know, if you're a place, if you're somewhere where you ride in Virgin, Utah, or you're riding at a bike park, chances are you're probably better than the majority, if not everybody here in Bentonville, Arkansas. We don't have bike parks. We don't have sustained ascents. There's nothing big and gnarly and nasty, and that's okay. But just understand that, you know, and part of it too is when it comes to racing, a lot of people, if you go from here and you go race the Big Mountain Enduro or the California Enduro Series, you shouldn't expect to go there and win. That's a pretty lofty expectation when you're riding against people that are familiar with that sort of terrain, that ride at 40 plus miles an hour for a few minutes. So think about all those things. I think it's really important. And I don't want to get off on a big old tangent about that, but I think it's something that everybody needs to think about. Have fun. The idea behind riding bikes is have fun. You want to get better, of course, but you know, it's relative. Get better. Look inside yourself. And if you're a younger rider, one of the best things I can tell you is don't keep doing what you're good at. If you're good at something, like I see all these kids taking their hands off. That's all you have to do is take your hands off. Learn to get the bike sideways. Understand the physics behind how the bike moves and how far you can push that and how you can get it back. Really think about the things. And this isn't just kids. This is everybody. If you're riding a bike and you want to get better, just put in a little work, not a ton. You know, go ride, go have fun, let it be therapy, but you know, don't do the things that you're good at all the time. If you're good at something, move on and get better at something else that you're not good at. Tyler, are you looking to give away a bike? You got a 2003 Giant Warp that badly needs to be replaced. I would love to. You know, that's something that's definitely a possibility, and maybe next year we can try to do that. I think we're getting to where this is getting to the point where it's growing. How about this, Tyler? If this channel gets to 100,000 subscribers, I'll do everything I can to give away a bike. Okay, how's that? Is that fair? So you do your part. Get the word out. Let's get 100,000 subscribers, and I think we can make some things happen. Martin, do you like fat bikes or fat EMTBs? I've never ridden one. I've never ridden a fat bike. They look awesome. I'd love to ride one. And I think this year at some point, I'm going to get on one. There's a couple people down in the Dallas area that ride them. And Pat Smage is just, that dude's amazing on an e-bike. It's incredible to see what he does. So yeah, I would love to be able to do that. Okay. Anybody else have any questions out there? We got a few more. We got a couple more minutes, and we're going to wrap it up because I actually have to get to work. We're going out to shoot today. Pretty good one. We got a couple coming. We did the berm how-to last week, so that's being edited now. Hopefully later this week, we will get that one up. But today we're going to go shoot another trail overview, but we're also going to shoot a jump how-to. And this one's going to be really cool because we're going to take Jennifer Clark. And Jennifer Clark is a woman that I met on the trail 5 months ago. She started riding because she's here in Bentonville, stacked it on a big old jump line. I tried to talk her through it a little bit. Long story short, she came to her 4th clinic yesterday, which was the jump clinic, or Sunday. She did really well. So now she's already taken it out to the trail. and it's been a little difficult. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put her back in that scenario on the trail, and we're going to try to show how you would implement the technique that I taught her in the clinic. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I'm getting pretty excited. So yeah. Hello from Latvia. Hello there. Bence, I think. Thank you for tuning in. Pretty cool. John thinks your drop technique is the safest way to drop, man. You know, it's what I do. I think it's pretty safe. I think you definitely have to do it right. It's one of those things where, you know, if the timing gets way off, it can be a little bit difficult. Johnson, off topic. How do you deal with mistakes? Man, in cycling and in life. You know, that's another one that's pretty tough. You just got to try to stay as positive as you can. It's funny that things are going to go wrong. It's bound to happen. Things go wrong. And what I've found now at 42 is the more positive I can be, the better it is. You know, if something goes wrong and it's going to cause you some issues, it's going to cause you some issues. And if you're down and depressed about it, I don't think it's going to help. History has shown that doesn't help. So if you can try to be as positive as you can, and trust me, I know, man, it's hard. There's times where it seems like I got the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I'm trying to just claw out from all these different requests and emails and all this stuff. But you just keep moving forward. It's funny. When I was in high school, I played football. I moved to a new high school and I didn't have any friends. So everybody was playing football. So I decided to play football. And the head coach, Gary Venturo, he's one of the most amazing human beings that I've ever been around in my life. And, you know, high school football, I think it can be very competitive at times, and that can take away from a lot of the value. He was very much a man of principle, and, you know, he tried to teach as many life lessons as he could. And one of them was do something. And the way he explained it, I was an offensive lineman, believe it or not. I was tiny, but I was a guard. I was a pulling guard. And we did a lot of really cool things. When I would miss an assignment, he would say, "God damn it, Drew, you just got to hit somebody. Like, hit somebody. Don't wander around aimlessly. Now, don't go hit anybody." But I think what it means is just do something. You know, do something. Find something, and you can do it, I guess. That's what I think. Okay, a couple more here. Cornering going downhill, pedals level or inside foot high. Same for flat cornering. That's a good one. Yeah, flat cornering, always up in my opinion. Cornering downhill, it's tough. I mean, downhill tight switchbacks, I'm going to go inside pedal up because then I can get moved over. But Spartan MTB, you're going to get a lot of those answers when our berm how-to premieres hopefully soon. So, all right, how to brake when descending, still keeping it fast? You know, that's a good question. Part of it's going to be body positioning. So when you're descending and, you know, you have corners or it's a steep chute like that, limiting how far back you are, I think, is going to be important. A lot of people immediately shoot their hips back. I think it's going to be important to stay centered over the bike. Here's the thing. If you need to turn, you need to be able to lean the bike and move the bike. If you're too far back, you can't move that much. So think about it that way. Stay as close to the center of the bike as you can. And yeah, I think that'll help. I think that'll make a pretty big difference. Okay. I think it's time to end this. 55 minutes. It's pretty good. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Some great comments, some great questions. If you have something that is specific, like a question you want me to answer, please drop it in one of these comments or send me a message, topics, all that stuff. I mean, we're still growing. We're still learning what's the best way to go about doing this. But I said I was going to do at least one a week, and this week's going to be out of control. And this was the opportunity I had. So I do promise I'm going to give people some more lead time coming up, hopefully a day or so, maybe even a little more. I don't know. But either way, you said it, Jeff. Dumpers out. So have a great week. Have some fun on the bike. Be positive. Smile. Even though you're wearing a mask, I think it's still, people can see in your eyes, you're smiling, and they'll appreciate that. So, all right, everybody, talk to you soon.